ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ.
ಖಾಲಿ ಜಾಗ ಭರ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಂದಿಸಿ ಬರೆದು ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಿ
ಚಿತ್ರ ಬರೆದು ಭಾಗವ ಹೆಸರಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೂ ಉತ್ತರಿಸಿ.
ಪಾಸು ಫೇಲು ಗೆಲುವು ಸೋಲು ಜೀವನ ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮಿಗಿಲು.
ಅಂಕಗಳೆಂದರೆ ಮೇಲಿನ ತೊಗಟೆ ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಅದರ ಒಳಗಿನ ತಿರುಳು. ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ. ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ. ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ.
ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿ.
Namaste children, a warm welcome to all of you for this session. I am T.K. Prasanamurthy, retired headmaster from Vijaya High School, which is located in Jayanagar 3rd block, Bangalore. I have served in the mathematics faculty for 36 long years and I retired about 5 years back. This is my 41st year of teaching and practicing secondary school mathematics. Today we will discuss one of the important chapters of our 10th standard mathematics. It is chapter number 4, circles. Yes, children, you can observe in this tabular column the entire statistics of this chapter number 4, circles. As you can see here, there are only two important theorems on tangents to a circle, for which there are 17 problems are there in our exercise, and there are two exercises are there with the three problems, worked examples. Okay. So, altogether you have about 20 problems on these two theorems. Now, let us try to understand these two theorems now. Here is a circle, here is a line segment, you can call it as AB. This is called a chord, C-H-O-R-D, chord. Okay. Here is another straight line. So, let us name this as CD. It is a straight line which is cutting the circle, the circumference of the circle at two distinct points. It is called secant, S-E-C-A-N-T. Here is another straight line called say PQ, which is touching the circle at only one point. Here it is R, and this straight line is called as the tangent. So, today we are going to understand two important fundamental theorems on this tangent, and this or the pointer is called the point of contact. Okay. Now, look at this line segment. Let us call it as XY. Can you call this as a tangent, children? This is touching, can you say that it is touching at Y? No, because if we extend this, if you were to extend this line, it will cut this circle at another point, therefore, it cannot be called as a tangent, it is a secant. So, tangent means a straight line. However, you extend on either direction, it will touch, it should touch only at one point, and such a straight line is called as a tangent. Okay. Now, this cannot be called as a tangent, because when extended this on this side towards the right, it will intersect at one more point. So, therefore, here are the definitions for the three concepts. First of all, chord. Chord is a line segment which joins any 2 points on the circumference of a circle. You can take any 2 points on the circumference, join it, the line segment is called the chord, and you know the diameter is the longest chord. Now secant. Secant is a straight line. Chord is a line segment, whereas secant is a straight line which cuts the circle at two distinct points, separate points. And finally, tangent is nothing but it is a straight line which touches the circle at only one point, and the point is called the point of contact. So these are the definitions for a chord, secant and a tangent. Okay. Now comes the two fundamental theorems on the tangents to a circle. There are only two theorems are there given in our textbook. Let us try to briefly revise these two theorems now. Okay. Let us take the first theorem. In our textbook it is called 4.1. This is not universal. So far as our textbook is concerned, this comes under 4.1. Okay, the statement, general enunciation. In a circle, radius and the tangent at the point of contact are perpendicular to each other. This is the statement. This is called general enunciation. So in any circle you draw the radius and draw the tangent also. At the point of contact, you can see that the tangent and the radius are always mutually, they will be perpendicular to each other. Now we have to draw a suitable figure for this. So with the help of compasses, you draw a circle with some convenient radius. As far as possible, take 3 centimeters or maximum 3.5 centimeter and draw a circle like this. Okay, locate the center of the circle, call it as O. Okay. Now here is a straight line. So two arrow marks on either sides indicates that it is a straight line. Let us call the mark any 2 points on it and call them as one as A and another as B. Now this straight line, you can see from the figure, it is touching only at this point. Okay. Let us call it as C. Now let us write down the data, whatever given, let us write down, list down. So the first point is O is the center of the circle. Okay. The second point is, look, this is the symbol for straight line. So write AB on the top, you draw a line segment with 2 arrow marks on either side, read it as straight line AB. Straight line AB is the tangent where it is at C. So C is called the point of contact. And now join O and C. So OC will become the radius. Okay. This is the data portion. So by reading the theorem, the general enunciation, we should be able to write down the whatever given as per this figure only. So having written the data, now we have to find out what is to be proved, what is to be established. So we need to show that, we have to prove that this radius and this tangent at this point of contact are perpendicular to each other. Look, this is the symbol for perpendicular. Okay. So OC is perpendicular to AB. Children, if you want to prove this, we need the help of some prerequisites. So whatever we have learned in our lower classes, say 8th, 9th and before the first term, so all these things will be so much helpful to understand this. So let us try to understand whatever prerequisites are there in order to prove this particular theorem. So we need the help of another important theorem. The statement is this: out of all the straight lines that can be drawn from an external point to a given straight line, the perpendicular is the least. Okay, this is the statement. So you draw a straight line like this. Okay, here is a straight line, call it as AB. Okay, now mark an external point some anywhere here, anywhere very close to this or left or right or even below, anywhere you want you can locate this point. So you can just name it as the point P. So P is the external point and AB is the straight line. So, from P you can draw so many line segments like this. So, a few have been drawn here. This is one. So, let us call it as PC. This is another one. So, let us name it as PD, and PQ is actually perpendicular to AB, and on the right also, for sample let us draw few more lines, say PE and PF. So, these are some of the line segments we can imagine from this point P to this straight line AB. Okay. Now, the theorem states that out of all these straight lines, so many lines that we can draw from this point P to the straight line, which one is the least distance? The theorem states that, so among these there will be only one line segment which will be perpendicular to AB from P, and that perpendicular is the shortest distance, is the minimum distance. So, PQ is perpendicular to AB. You children, you know that this is a symbol for 90 degrees. So, that which is perpendicular from P to AB will be the shortest distance, will be the minimum distance. So, this is one important prerequisite to prove the previous one. Now, we need the help of not this particular theorem, there is converse to this that we are going to use in proving the previous one. So, this is the data portion, this is the to prove portion. Okay. Now, we have to understand the converse to the theorem which we have just stated. So, let us try to understand the converse of a theorem, the meaning of the converse of a theorem. The converse of a theorem can be defined like this: if data of a theorem is made to prove, and to prove of the theorem is made data, then each statement is called the converse of the other. If you take any theorem, any proposition, it will have two things. One is the data part, hypothesis, another one is the conclusion part. So, data you make it as to prove, and to prove you convert into data, you will get another new theorem, new statement, and that is called the converse to this theorem. So, now having understood the meaning of the converse of a theorem, let us try to understand what is the converse to this theorem. Okay. Now, converse theorem: out of all the straight lines that can be drawn from an external point to a given straight line, the least is the perpendicular. Okay. So, now again here is a straight line AB, and here is an external point P. So, you can imagine so many number of lines from the point P to the straight line. So, we wanted to know that this shortest distance PQ, say let us suppose that PQ is the shortest distance from P to AB. If PQ is the shortest distance from P to AB, then definitely that shortest distance will be at right angles to the straight line AB. And this one we are going to make use in order to prove that radius and the tangent at the point of contact are perpendicular to each other. So, having understood the theorem and the converse and the prerequisites, I wanted to just briefly tell you the theorem and its converse. The theorem states the perpendicular is the least, whereas the converse, the least is the perpendicular. So, look at these two diagrams, these two figures. In this case, for the theorem, data is PQ is perpendicular to AB, whereas here for converse theorem, PQ is given as the least distance, the minimum distance, the shortest distance from the point P to AB. In such a case, we have to show that PQ is the minimum, the least distance. Here in the converse, we have to show that PQ is perpendicular to AB. So, with the help of this converse of this theorem, let us understand the radius and tangent theorem. So, data has been made to prove, and to prove has been made data. So, such as statements are called converse statements, converse theorem. So, now with this prerequisite, I think we can comfortably understand the proof for our theorem. Okay, here is the tangent, here is the radius, this is the point of contact. Now look at the arguments. Select the points D and E on the straight line AB on either sides of C and very close to C. So here is the point C, on either side left and right you choose just for sample sake 2 arbitrary points on the straight line AB. So let us suppose that these two are the points, call this point as D and this point as E. Having chosen this, join them D and E with O. So let us join these 2 points with O. Now how are you going to use this construction and show that OC is perpendicular to AB? Okay, the first point. So here is on the towards the left, here is a triangle OCD, correct? In triangle OCD, you can very well see that this line segment OD, if you compare with the length of OC, definitely anybody can say that OD is greater than OC. Do you know the reason? The reason is this: the point D is not on the circumference of the circle, it is on the tangent AB, because tangent means it is a straight line which touches the circle at only one point. So C is the only point in common with the circle and to this straight line AB. So naturally D cannot lie on the circumference, it has to be on the tangent AB. So therefore if you compare the lengths of OD and OC, definitely we can say that OD is greater than OC in the length. Similarly on the right side we have another triangle OCE. So in triangle OCE, if you compare the lengths of OE and OC, for the same reason OE has to be greater than OC. And children, in geometry you know, for every step under the proof we need to write the reasons like this. So this is the symbol for because the points D and E are not on the circumference of the circle but on straight line AB, therefore they have to be greater than the radius OC. I think this would be sufficient to conclude that we can say that OC has to be the shortest distance from the point O to AB. If you take any number of points on AB, go on joining with O and compare their lengths with OC, you can understand that among all those lines OC is the minimum distance. So it is enough, 2 cases are enough to show that OC is the minimum distance from this point to this straight line AB. Therefore we can conclude that OC, that is the radius, is perpendicular to straight line AB, because out of all the lines that can be drawn from the external point O to AB, the least is the perpendicular. Okay, this is the converse of the prerequisite theorem. So with that we have showed that this radius and the tangent at the point of contact are always perpendicular to each other. So this is the proof, a very simple proof, a small proof to show that radius and tangent are perpendicular to each other. Once we complete this theorem, it is convention to write QED. So what is this QED? QED is nothing but Q for quad, E for error, D for demonstrandum. In fact this is in Latin language. The meaning of this is this: that which is to be demonstrated is demonstrated, that which is to be proved is proved, that which is to be established is established, or simply you can say hence it is proved. So if you think that whatever proof we have written is really scientific, is quite logical, if you are confident only, please write the word this QED, otherwise it is not at all a problem. Now converse of the theorem, which whatever we have just now understood, the radius and the tangent theorem, let us try to understand the converse to that theorem. So the statement is this: the perpendicular to the radius at the non-center end. So here is a circle, here is the center O, this is the radius, and any line segment we know that it will have 2 ends. this end is called center end, this end is called non-center end. Like in cricket match, we say the bowler is bowling from the south end, church end, in the same way this end is called the center end, this end is called the non-center end. So it states that converse of this theorem can be stated as, if you happen to draw a perpendicular to this point here like this, if you can draw a perpendicular like this, say call it as AB. So this angle is 90, that line, this perpendicular line is going to touch this entire circle at only one point. Okay. So this is the radius, this is the non-center end. If you draw a perpendicular like this, it will touch the circle at only one point. Whenever a straight line touches a circle at only one point, then it is called a tangent. Okay. This is the converse to the theorem. So children, please compare radius and the tangent at the point of contact are perpendicular to each other, whereas the converse is to the radius at the non-center end. If you happen to draw a perpendicular like this, it is going to touch the circle at only one point, therefore it has to be the tangent, and this is the converse to the 4.1 theorem. Okay, this is our straight line AB is nothing but our tangent. Children, after converse also we need to understand some more things called corollary. In Kannada it is called upaprameya. Prameya means theorem, upaprameya means corollary. So this 4.1 theorem has got two beautiful corollaries. So let us try to understand first of all, what do you mean by a corollary? Corollary is also a statement, is also a theorem, okay, derived from another theorem which is self-evident, which is obvious. So the moment we state this after the theorem, after the converse, we say that yes sir, it is quite natural, we can only prove it. So therefore it is called as self-evident. So we need to now understand there are two corollaries are there. Let us try to understand one by one. Corollary number 1. Okay, look here. The perpendicular to the tangent at the point of contact passes through the center of the circle. I think this figure will help us to understand this. Here is a circle, this is the center, let us call it as O. Here is a tangent, call it as AB, and this is the point of contact. Now with the help of compasses or protractor, whatever may be, you draw a perpendicular at this point of contact. If you draw a perpendicular at this point of contact like this, it will definitely pass through this center only, and this is called a corollary, and this is the first corollary to 4.1 theorem. So this is the tangent, this is the point of contact, this is the perpendicular we have drawn. So this is the symbol for 90 degrees, and this CO will pass through the center of the circle. Now let us go to the corollary number 2. Is very simple, very obvious. Only one tangent can be drawn at a point on the circumference of a circle. So this figure we can see a circle here, and you choose any point anywhere on the circumference of the circle, say call it as C. Now the theorem states how many tangents can be drawn at a point on the circumference of the circle. So this is the subject of corollary number 2, and you can easily say that there is only one tangent at C passing through C on this circle. Therefore we say that only one tangent can be drawn at a point on the circumference of the circle. So these are the two corollaries which will help us to solve many problems. So we have understood 4.1, its converse, and along with that two corollaries. With this we have completed 4.1. Now let us go to the another very small theorem, a very fundamental theorem on the tangents or to a circle. The tangents drawn from an external point to a circle are equal. See, from an external point, we are not considering a point on the circumference. We take some external point, and you know that through that point we can draw only two tangents, and this theorem we have to understand that the length of those two tangents are always equal. So now let us draw the suitable figure for this. So here is the data. O is the center of the circle. So you can see here, this is the center, and PA and PB are the tangent from the external point P. So let us consider a point somewhere here, anywhere as close as far, anywhere around this you can choose, not on the circumference, not inside the circle, anywhere out of the circle you can choose, call it as P. Now you already know that from this external point P you can draw only two tangents like this. If the point P were to be on the circumference, you just know by corollary number 2 there is only one tangent. But if the point is an external point, there can be two tangents can be drawn like this. So these are the points of contacts. Okay. Now we have to show that the length of PA and PB are equal. That is all, a very small theorem. This will be for 3 marks, children. Okay. And this can be easily demonstrated with some simple constructions. So what is a construction? So join point number 1, O and P. O and P you join. Whatever construction we do, it is better you do it in the broken lines, saying that continuous line indicates that it is given in the theorem itself, and this is not found in the theorem. We have only drawn it in order to prove it. So join O and P, point number 1. Point number 2 is join OA and OB also. Join OA and OB also. Okay, and this is the construction. Now proof. So look at this figure carefully, children. How to show that the length of P from here to here and here to here are equal? Yes, you have to recall, you need to recall 9th standard chapter congruent triangles, in which we have told you SAS criterion, SAS, SSS, ASA and RHS also. So using the congruent triangle concept, we need to demonstrate that these two triangles are congruent. So how to do it? Let us start. So compare right angle triangle AOP and right angle triangle BOP. Compare means we have to compare the elements of those two triangles. Elements means sides and angles of a triangle are called elements of a triangle. So let us compare the sides and angles in both the triangles. That is the meaning of saying compare the triangle, these two triangles. So you know already that only 3 points are to be elements are to be listed. The point number 1 is angle OAP. OAP means this angle is equal to angle OBP, you know, because of 4.1. Radius and the tangent at the point of contact are perpendicular to each other. See, theorem number 2 we are able to prove with the help of theorem number 1 only, which we have learned just now. Point number 2, this when once this 2 becomes the right angle triangle, when this is 90, this is the hypotenuse for this, when this is 90, this is the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse OP is common to both the right angle triangles. So hypotenuse OP is common to both. And finally the last point, OA and OB are equal. You know they are the radii of the same circle and they will be always equal. So now right angle, hypotenuse and a side are respectively equal to right angle, hypotenuse and a corresponding side. So this is what we could understand by comparing. So, take a decision that therefore, you can say that those two right angle triangles are said to be congruent. This is the symbol for congruent. This is equal, this is congruent. Equal means in only one aspect. Congruent means in all aspect like shape, size, area, everything they are one and the same. In such a case, you need to use this, and it is all because of RHS theorem. So, if right angle, hypotenuse and a side are respectively equal to right angle, hypotenuse and a corresponding side, then those two right angle triangles are said to be congruent. This we have proved it also in fact in 9th standard. So, using that criterion we could show that those two right angle triangles are said to be congruent. The moment these two right angle triangles become congruent, you can immediately say that the corresponding elements must be equal. So, PA of this is equal to PB of this because CPCT. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles, hence the length of AB and length of PB are equal, hence it is proved, it is established. Okay. Now, what do you mean by CPCT? C for corresponding, P for parts, C for congruent and T for triangles. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles, they are always equal to each other. Children, here is a small activity for the theorem, second theorem 4.2. You can see here this is the thing, the figure has been drawn in a corrugated sheet. So, here is a circle in black color, and here are the two tangents. These are the two radii, and they are making an angle of 90 degrees. So, this is the line joining the center and external point, and you can see these two angles are equal, these two angles are equal. Okay. Now, this all because these two right angle triangles are congruent on account of RHS, that I wanted to demonstrate now. Okay. Now, let me separate, there are three pieces are there, you can see these three pieces separately. Okay, children, the theorem 4.2, whatever you learned just now, it can be demonstrated with the help of this small activity. The figure is drawn in a corrugated sheet. Okay. Here is a circle in black color, in blue you can see the two tangents, and this is the line joining the center and external point. So, you can see the two radii. Okay, this is one, this another one. Now, I just wanted to show you in this activity, these two right angle triangles are congruent. So, let us separate, there are three parts are there, three pieces are there in this. Okay, let us separate it now. You can see that these two right angle triangles are congruent, that can be demonstrated like this, children. Okay, see here. Okay. Look at these two right angle triangles, okay, they are congruent to each other, or you can keep it like this, one on the top of the other. So, if you superimpose these two right angle triangles, they fit in exactly, therefore, these two are congruent. Or if you happen to keep it like this, okay, see how it is going to look, they form an isosceles triangle. Okay. So, they form these two right angle triangles here, when kept like this, it forms the isosceles triangle in which these two are congruent because of RHS. Okay. Now, you can see in this figure OAPB in this quadrilateral. So, these are the two opposite angles, this is 90, this is 90 because you know very well already the reason. And if you take the sum is 90 plus 90, 180. You know very well that in any quadrilateral, if the opposite angle sum is 180 degree, then it has to be a cyclic quadrilateral. Therefore, we can say that OAPB is a cyclic quadrilateral. When once it becomes a cyclic quadrilateral, we can also say that this angle AOB plus this angle, the other pair of opposite angles, their sum is also equal to 180 degree. Correct, children? So, if this angle is 60 degree, 180 minus 60 is this, which is 190. which is 120. 180 minus 60 is 120. If this angle is 90 degrees, then definitely this will be also 90 degrees. So, that we could say because we understood that this is a cyclic quadrilateral. Okay. Now, we can also say at the last point, this line OP is bisecting this angle as well as this angle, that is the angle between the tangent and angle at the center. Since these two angles are equal and these two angles are equal, we can say that OP is the angular bisector of angle AOB and angle APB. Okay. Now, we just let us revise this theorem. In a cyclic quadrilateral, the sum of the opposite angles are supplementary. Conversely, if the opposite angles of a quadrilateral are supplementary, then it has to be a cyclic quadrilateral. Okay. Now let us try to understand one important problem from exercise 4.2. Here it is. A quadrilateral ABCD is drawn to circumscribe a circle. We need to show the sum of these two, that is AB plus CD is equal to AD plus BC. This is one important problem, a simple problem, a simple application of the theorems which we have just now proved it. So, you can consider this A, B, C and D are the external points to this circle. Okay. If you consider D as the external point, then DS is equal to DR, then CR is equal to, for the same reason, CR is equal to CQ, BQ is equal to BP and AP is equal to AS, because tangents to a circle from an external point are always equal. 4.2 theorem, just recall that. So, with this information, let us find out what is AB plus CD. So, AB plus CD is nothing but AB can be written as, it can be split as AP plus BB plus CD can be written as DR plus RC. Now, instead of AP, can we not substitute AS? Instead of PB, write BQ. Instead of RC, you write this. Instead of DR, you substitute this. So, in place of AP, you write AS. And instead of PB, you write BQ. Instead of this, you write this. Instead of DR, you substitute DS, and in place of RC, you can substitute CQ. Now, how to add this? So, it can be added so easily by rearrangement. AS and DS, let us club it together. Okay, this is because of 4.2. So, let us do this rearrangement. AS and DS can be rearranged, can be rewritten like this, plus BQ and CS can be written. Okay. Now, we can add AS and DS. So, AS and DS will together make AD and BQ plus CQ, and that will add up to BC. Therefore, AB plus CD, this side plus this side is always equal to this side plus this side. So, this can be so nicely remembered as, if the sides of a quadrilateral are tangents to a circle, then the sum of the opposite sides are always equal. If all these four sides are the tangents to a circle, then this plus this is always equal to this plus this. This is because of theorem number 4.2. Okay. Now, another important problem, let us try to understand. This is problem number 9 from the same exercise. Okay. So, here is the figure for this. You can see here this xy and x dash y dash are two parallel tangents to this circle with center O, P and Q being their points of contacts. Now, here is one more tangent BC AB like this, which is touching the circle at C. So, using this data, we have to find out what is the measure of angle AOB. Can you make any guess, children? We have just now understood so many theorems, 4.1, 4.2 and the 9th standard theorem. Using all those things, we can easily find out what is this angle AOB. Okay. So, we have to find out this. So, So, the same diagram in a bigger scale it is appearing now here. So, we can easily see this now. Okay. Now, you consider A and B as the external point to this circle, therefore, AP and AC are the tangents to this circle. For the same reason, BC and BQ are the tangents. When AP and AC are the tangent, this is the center, this is the external point. If you join this, you know that this line will bisect the angle between the tangents, and let us suppose that each of them is equal to x degrees. So, if you join O and B, so OB also is the bisector of the angle between the tangents. Let us call them as each angle as y degrees each. Okay. So, this is because of 4.2 theorem. Now, apply, you know that, now go back to 9th standard theorems on parallel lines. When two straight lines are cut by a transversal, then the sum of the interior angles on the same side of the transversal is 180 degrees. So, this is the transversal, these are the lines which are parallel, this and this they are on to the left side of the transversal, their interior angles, their sum has to be 180 degrees. So, 2x plus 2y has to be 180 degree. Now, how to find out this angle using this equation? It is quite simple. Now, divide throughout this equation by 2. So, you will get x plus y is equal to 90 degrees. So, when x plus y, when this angle plus this angle is 90 degrees, can you not find out the third angle of a triangle, because you know sum of three angles of a triangle is always equal to 180 degrees. So, therefore, this angle is equal to, in triangle AOB, this angle AOB is equal to 180 degrees minus this is 90 degrees, 180 minus 90 is 90, therefore, angle AOB is equal to 90 degrees. So, children, today we have revised two important fundamental theorems on the chapter, fourth chapter called circles, and only two problems from the exercise we have discussed. So, in the same way, kindly work out all the remaining sums, and we all from this end, we all wish you all the best. Thank you, children.
Hi students, welcome to the 10th standard science subject revision classes. Today let us revise the chapter Control and Coordination. This chapter you have already learned the learning points which we have to cover in this chapter, which includes nervous system in animals, even in case of human beings. And next is how reflex action occurs in animals. What about the reflex arc? Even this also you have studied. Next is the human brain, its parts and its functions. Apart from that, how plants give response to the stimulus, is they give response or not, that also we will study. How they give, if at all they give response. Next is the growth movements in case of plants. Growth occurs in the plants. Why growth occurs? Is there any necessity behind it? or it is just for increasing in its size? All those things we have already learned. Let us revise all those points again, students. And lastly, the endocrine glands in human beings. In human beings, there are many endocrine glands which will be secreting hormone, and these hormones perform specific function in human beings. All those functions again we will revise. And next comes nervous system in animals. Neuron is the important component of the nervous system. Nervous system comprises brain, spinal cord, and the nerves which originate from the spinal cord. This nerves we call it as the peripheral nervous system. Thus, this nervous system comprises brain, spinal cord, and also the peripheral nervous system. Along with that, one more system also part of the nervous system, that is autonomous nervous system. We will study all these things. All this helps in controlling and coordinating different parts in the organism, especially in case of animals. Not only that, in addition to this, even endocrine glands also perform some important functions that we will discuss later on. Now, how actually nervous system do all these functions? What it has? It has a structural and functional unit called as neuron. Neuron is the important component of nervous system. Nervous system comprises millions of neurons. As the nervous system is huge in size in case of human beings, and when it comes to other higher organisms, this will be spread out in the entire body, which will be controlling all parts. So many neurons are involved. How the neurons are arranged? They are arranged side by side. But the speciality of these neuron cells is that they are not connected to each other. They are just laid side by side, but they are not connected to each other. There will be a small gap between each neuron. That small gap we call it as a synapse. Now students, look at the diagram of the neuron. It is the elongated cell when you consider all other types of cells in the human body or in any animal organism. There will be different kinds of cells. It may be epithelial tissue or muscular tissue or connective tissue. When it comes to nervous tissue comprising neuron, this neuron is the longest cell. This has three important parts. The first one is the cell body, and the second one is the long extension called as axon, and it ends with nerve endings. The cell body has a central nucleus, and it has extensions called as dendrite. This complete structure is involved in transfer of messages. Actually, this dendrites receives chemical messages. That chemical message through the cell body and through the axon reaches the nerve ending in the form of nerve impulse. That nerve impulse is transmitted as a electrical impulse. It is electrical signals. It is actually the exchange of ions occurs in the neuron cell. Thus, by the way of electrical impulse, the messages or information which receives from the previous cell transferred or transmitted. Now, there will be, as I said, there will be a small gap between each neuron cell. Small gap we call it as a synapse. Now the question, in case of neuron from a dendritic end to nerve ending, the impulses or messages are transferred in the form of electrical impulse. Whereas in this small gap, that is a synapse, how messages are transferred, as I already mentioned, it is transferred in the form of chemical messenger. Some specific chemical substances helps to transfer the electrical impulses to the next neuron cell. That chemical substance we call it as acetylcholine. In the examination, definitely such kind of questions you can expect. So, as I mentioned, in neuron cell, messages are transmitted in the form of electrical impulse, whereas in synapse, messages are transmitted through chemical messengers. That chemical messenger is acetylcholine. Next, come to the reflex action. This reflex action is a sudden response to the stimulus. All organisms, they are very reflexive. Very reflexive in the sense they are very fast in giving response to the external stimulus. Whatever the changes which occurs in the surrounding environment, the organisms senses very fastly and gives response. Take for example, if you touch any hot object, immediately you will withdraw your hand. That is called reflex action. That will be within a short span of time. You will withdraw your hand. This reflex action occurs without thinking, otherwise without feeling as if you are doing this action. Such a kind of actions we call it as a reflex action. Now actually how this reflex action occurs? Look at the pathway of this reflex action. The pathway of reflex action is called reflex arc. Look at the depict of the reflex action in this diagram. As I mentioned, the pathway of reflex action is called reflex arc. See here in this given diagram, a person is touching a hot object. When he touches the hot object, the sensory cells present in the skin which senses the hotness, those receptor cells transfers the message to the sensory neuron. From sensory neuron, it is transferred to the spinal cord. From spinal cord, actually it should reach the brain, where actually the process occurs, and it sends a message further to take action or to give response. Since here it is an emergency situation going to the brain, impulses going to the brain and coming back, it may take some time. Definitely it will take some time. During such emergency situations, spinal cord takes immediate action. It will send message to the brain, but in spite of receiving message from the brain, the spinal cord itself initiates response. It gives message to the motor neurons. Motor neurons activates the muscles or part of the body. The part of the body that has to be removed back or withdrawn should be the hand. So the muscles in the forehand or in the hand takes in action and moves away from the hot object. All this occurs within a fraction of a second. That is what we call as a reflex action. Reflex action is a boon to the organism because all the organisms comes to such kind of situations which faces many threats, during which this reflex action enables the body to give immediate response, and it makes the body to survive out of such emergency situations, and the pathway what we call it as reflex arc. Hope you understood, students. Now come to the human brain. When compared to all other organisms, human brain considered to be more evolved in terms of its size, in terms of its mass, in terms of its volume. Not only that, the processing which occurs in the human brain is so fast, it is faster than the computer. The so-called supercomputers cannot be comparable to the functioning of the human brain. It is so complex in its action. This brain consists of three important parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Students, this diagram is there for you to practice. Hope all of you have practiced very well. Though it appears to be very complex, it is very easy for you to write if you practice. Okay, come to the forebrain. Forebrain is the largest part of the human brain. It consists of cerebrum and thalamus. Thalamus contains hypothalamus, another part. This forebrains or cerebrum, you can see, you will find many convolutions. These convolutions increases the surface area. Actually, most of the actions or responses what human beings give, those processes occurs in the cerebrum itself. It is a center for consciousness. If all of you are in conscious state, that is because of cerebrum. If you come across a person who is not conscious, definitely you can say that the cerebrum is not functioning. Either it may be not functioning or it may be under rest. When you are sleeping, definitely cerebrum will be taking rest. Of course, it acts so fastly, so complex actions it will take, it needs even rest also. Now come to the other functions of this cerebrum. Cerebrum, as I said, it is the main thinking part of the brain. All thinking process occurs in the brain itself. All imaginations which occurs in the cerebrum itself. All creativity works, whatever you do, so the centers are located in the cerebrum itself. It has regions by which it receives impulses from the sense organs and also from other various receptors. It has a special areas for hearing, smell, sight and all others. Next, cerebrum, as I said, it is a site of consciousness and also it will make decisions. For all the stimuluses which you give response, the decisions are made in the cerebrum itself. Okay, thus cerebrum plays an important role. It has a site of memory. Your memory power, it is there in the cerebrum. Of course, memory, you cannot say that I have a low memory or my memory power is very strong. Such things are not there. Memory is just a product of practice. Students, practice makes you perfect. Practice makes you to improve memory power. Okay. Next part is the cerebellum. It is the part of the hindbrain. This part is responsible for all voluntary actions. Right now, I am standing in front of you and all voluntary actions which occurs in my body is just because of the cerebellum. And it also helps in to perform some precision works. For example, if you are walking on in a straight line, or if you are walking on a string or on a rope, such balancing of the body is because of what to say, cerebellum. And if you are riding a bicycle, that is also balancing your body is because of cerebellum. And as I mentioned, the picking of pencil, a precision grip, that is also because of the cerebellum itself. Apart from that, as I said, it is responsible for all voluntary actions and also helps to maintain the posture and also balancing of the body. Thus, cerebellum controls all our voluntary actions. Of course, even cerebrum also takes part in it, but mainly cerebellum performs or controls all voluntary actions. Next is another important part of the hindbrain is medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata, it initiates or controls all involuntary actions, which controls even your blood pressure, salivation, vomiting. All these things you cannot control. These functions are controlled by the medulla oblongata. As I said, it is a part of the hindbrain. Next is the pons. We have heard of a famous proverb that face is the index of mind. Whatever there in your mind which gets expressed in the face, if you are happy, that you can sense from your facial expressions. Thus, I can say that pons controls all your facial expressions. Pons is an important part of the brain or hindbrain which controls your facial expressions. Apart from that, it also helps in mastication, chewing of the food. It cuts all the food particles into very small. That process occurs in the mouth or in the buccal cavity by the action of this upper and lower jaw. That is what we call as a mastication, and it is under the control of pons. Next, now the question, such a complex tissue, the nervous tissue, which will be controlling all our body parts, how this nervous tissue is protected? That means how brain and spinal cord are protected. This brain is protected by hard bony structure called skull. Skull is a bony structure within which the brain is located. Of course, inside the skull, another liquid is present called as cerebrospinal fluid. In the fluid, the brain is floating, surrounded by the skull. The cerebrospinal fluid, it nourishes the brain cells. It provides nourishment to the brain cells, and also it protects brain from any infectious germs. If at all it is attacking the brain, this cerebrospinal fluid protects it. protects the brain from these infectious germs. Apart from that, this brain is also protected by three-layered membrane structure called as meninges. Thus, brain has a strong protection, that is hard bony structure, skull and cerebrospinal fluid, and even the three-layered meninges. Further, the spinal cord is also protected by cerebrospinal fluid and also the meninges layers, and even the vertebral column or the bony structure also protects the spinal cord. That means the complete nervous system is completely protected. Three layered protections are there. Yes, further, now how coordination occurs in case of plants? Of course, in case of animals, specialized nerve tissues are there for coordination of different parts. Whereas in case of plants, how this coordination occurs? Do they have any nervous system, or do they have any alternative tissues? In case of plants, there is no such specialized tissues for the coordination purpose. Then how coordination occurs? In case of plants, coordination is brought about by nastic movements and tropic movements. What is this nastic and tropic movements? Let us study about this. Nastic movements are those movements which is independent of growth. The movement does not involve the growth of the plant. Then just the part of the plant will be moving away from the response or towards the response. Here growth is not involved. Such a kind of movements we call it as nastic movement. Otherwise these movements are called as the growth independent movements. Next is the tropic movement. These movements which depends on the growth. Due to the growth of a particular part, it give response to the stimulus, either it is moving towards the stimulus or moving away from the stimulus. Such a kind of movements, the tropic movements, we call it as growth dependent movements. Now let us see in detail about this coordination. We have find even in case of plants, they give immediate response. Not all plants, at least some plants, they give response, the observable response to the stimulus. You can notice the response given by the plant to the stimulus. The very good example for such a response to the stimulus is touch-me-not plant. In case of touch-me-not plants, if you touch any part of the plant, or especially when you touch the leaflets closes. That means these leaflets are very sensitive to touch. They know that some object or somebody is touching. Immediately in response, they close the leaflets. After some time, slowly it opens. Now, you will be surprised how this response and stimulus occurs in case of touch-me-not plant, a plant which is a tissue level organization you will find in plants. You don't find any nervous tissue. In spite of that, they are very effective in giving response to the stimulus. Now let us go to the details, how it will go, how it happens. Here in case of touch-me-not plant, as I said, it is very sensitive to touch. It exhibits growth independent movement. Only the leaflets are moving. Here there is no growth in the leaflets, or when it comes to the response and stimulus, just closing and opening of leaflets occurs. That is because of electrical, chemical responses or messages which will be transferred from cell to cell. That means even in case of plants, the communication or information is conveyed from one cell to another cell by means of electrical messengers, and even chemical messengers occurs. When it comes to this touch-me-not plant, how actually this closing and opening of leaflets occurs? Here the cells change shape by changing the amount of water in them. Actually at the base of the leaflet, the water content level changes. When water enters into the cell, it results in swelling up. When water moves out of the cell, that results results in shrinking of the cell, due to which the shape of the cell changes, which enables the plant to move the leaflets. That means in case of plants, either by changing the water level, usually it is by changing the water level, apart from that even electrical messages and even chemical messengers which will be helping the plant to respond. This it is specific to nastic movements, that is growth independent movements. Next, plants also exhibit responses to the stimulus by growing a particular part of the plant body, that is called as movement due to growth, that is growth dependent. Such a kind of responses we call it as tropic movements. This growth movement is always directional. It moves in a specific direction. Okay, let us consider pea plant. It is a climber. Usually it will take the help of the nearby plants or any fences, to which it will extend its tendrils. Tendril is a leaf modification which will appear like a spring, and it helps the plant to grow erect, because the stem in case of pea plant is not strong. Then how it can stand erect? By the help of tendrils. These tendrils are sensitive to touch and they grow. This is growth dependent. Whereas in case of touch me not plant, there also the plant is very sensitive to touch, but that movement we call it as growth independent or nastic movement. Whereas here in case of pea plant, here the plant is also sensitive to touch, that too tendrils, the part of the pea plant which is tendril is sensitive to touch, but it will show growth. That means growth dependent. Next, come to another kinds of growth movements in case of plants: ignotropism, phototropism, and even geotropism, hydrotropism, and chemotropism. These are all growth movements. Now let us study each one in detail. Phototropism. Look at this diagram. You might have seen even this diagram picture in the textbook itself. Here the potted plant, that too especially the shoot, is moving towards the sunlight. The shoot system is moving towards the light. That means they are sensitive to photo, that means light. In the same way, you can give some more examples of plants which is giving response to the light. Take for example, sunflower is a very good example. As the name itself says that sunflower, it has a flower at the tip, at the apex. That flower is very sensitive to light and it always moves towards the sunlight. That means in case of sunflower or in all the plants, the shoots are very sensitive to light. They move towards the sunlight. Hence we can say that the shoot system is positively phototrophic in nature. When it comes to roots, they want to move away from the sunlight. Even that is also a movement. Such a kind of movement where it is moving away from the stimulus, then it is called as negative tropic movement. So here roots, since they are moving away from the light, you can say that they are negatively phototrophic in nature. Next is geotropism. Yes, look at the diagram. Here the potted plant, the very pot is kept horizontally. The roots are coming out of the pot and they are moving towards the earth, moving towards the soil. Here the roots are positively geotrophic, whereas the shoot system, actually in the beginning it was horizontal, further it straightens up and moves erect. Here you can say that shoots always moves upwards or moves away from the soil. Hence you can say that the shoot system is negatively geotrophic, moving away from the earth. Next is chemotropism. In case of chemotropism, say let us consider a diagram which you have studied in how organisms reproduce in the 10th standard biology. the pollen grains transferred onto the stigma from the anther. Now this pollen grain is producing a pollen tube. That pollen tube extends till the ovary. Further the fertilization occurs. All those things are separate. But the question, how this small minute pollen grain produces such a elongated pollen tube, that is because of the chemicals produced by the ovary. The biochemicals produced by the ovary stimulates the pollen grain to produce pollen tube, and it is moving towards the ovary, that is positively chemotrophic in nature. In the same way, some organisms move away from the particular plants because of a specific smell. There you can say that negatively chemotropic. Yes, further consider this hydrotropism. Hydro means water. Tropic means growth movement towards water. Yes, you are correct. In case of plants, the roots moves towards the water. They move in search of the water. Such a kind of movement exhibited by the roots, we call it as positively hydrotropism. Positive hydrotropism. If any part of an organism moving away from the water, then it is called negatively hydrotropic. Okay. Next is thigmotropism. In thigmotropism, here already which we have discussed about tendril taking the support of anything. Here it is taking support of a stem or any other structures to which it will entangle itself. So that is the nature of tendril. Here it is sensitive to touch. Till that it will grow. The very nature of tendril that if it doesn't come across any object, it will keep on growing. Whenever it comes in contact with a substance, it entangles it and stops its growth. So that means here tendril is sensitive to touch. Whenever it comes in contact with something, it will stop its growth. So such kind of tropic movements you will find in case of plants. All these tropic movements enables the plants to give response to the stimulus. Students, definitely you can expect one more questions on this tropic movements and how plants give response to the stimuluses, even by considering the nastic movements which occurs in case of touch me not plants and even in many other plants. But in the textbook we have discussed about the touch me not plant. Hope all of you followed these points. Next, come to the plant hormones. Apart from this, plants secretes many hormones, in which few of them we are going to discuss. That is auxin, gibberellin and cytokinin, and the last one is abscisic acid. These four plant hormones, it is there in the syllabus, and let us discuss its role and function. Take the example of the auxin, a plant hormone. It is called as a growth hormone because it is responsible for the growth of the plant body. How actually it helps in growth of the plant body? It stimulates the cells to grow longer. Once the cell division occurs, when the cell division occurs, the cell will be smaller size. Now the cell has to grow to its full size. This growth of the cell occurs because of the auxin. But here the important phenomena which we have to focus on it is that auxin makes, actually it is present in the shoot tip, and it makes the cell to grow longer, by which it wants to move away from the sunlight. They may ask question. See, the auxin which is present in the shoot tip wants to move away from the light. Can you say what kind of tropic movement this hormone, the auxin plant hormone, is exhibiting? Yes, you can. So in the same way, it also, as I said, it diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot, by which it makes the cell to grow longer, that results in growth of the plant body. Next is cytokinin. Cytokinin also promotes cell division. Once a cell attains its maximum size, it has to undergo cell division. In the cells, somatic cells undergo mitotic division. or reproductive cells undergo meiotic division. Here, this somatic cell division occurs because of the presence of the cytokinin. That means it fastens the cell division. Cell number has to increase. When the cell number increases, the mass of the plant body also increases, the volume also increases, thus which ends up or results in the growth of the plant body. So thus cytokinin is helping the cell division, or it is promoting the cells to undergo cell division. Usually it is present in larger quantity or in greater concentration. It is present in fruits and seeds. Yes, the next plant hormone is gibberellin. Gibberellin also helps in the growth of the stem. The girth of the stem is increasing, the length of the stem is increasing, because not only because of the auxin, even gibberellin also contributes for the growth of the stem. Next is the abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is a plant hormone which inhibits growth. It stops the growth. Plant body stops its growth because of the accumulation of abscisic acid in particular part of the plant body. Whenever the leaves gets old, the wilting of leaves occurs because of the abscisic acid. The old leaves which will fall off from the plant body, again because of abscisic acid. Please students, go through these points once again. Next point is hormones in human beings. There are many hormones are produced which also controls the function of specific part of the body. That means control and coordination in human beings is brought about not only by the nervous system, it is also associated with many other glands. The glands are of two types, endocrine glands and exocrine glands. Here we are discussing about endocrine glands. Otherwise these endocrine glands are called as ductless glands. They don't have any ducts. That means these endocrine glands, whatever they secrete, their secretion is poured directly into the blood. Through the blood, it reaches the target organs or the destiny. But these hormones are there specific in its action. They act only if they reach the target organs. Now, let us have a look at different endocrine glands present in the human beings. In the human beings, in the head region, you will find pituitary gland. Whereas in the neck region, you will find thyroid gland. Inside the thyroid gland, one more gland is present, that is called as parathyroid gland. Whereas in the chest region, thymus gland. In the same way, just below the gastric cavity, you will find pancreas. Of course, pancreas, which also helps in digestion by producing pancreatic juices. The pancreatic juices are poured into the small intestine through the help of ducts. Hence, that part of the pancreas we call it as a exocrine gland. In the same way, this pancreas also secretes some hormones, and those hormones are directly poured into the blood. That part of the pancreas we call it as a endocrine part. And next is the glands which are just located above the kidneys. Those are called as adrenal glands. Apart from that, in case of men, you will find testes, and in case of females, you will find ovaries. These glands are specific to the gender of the human being. Now let us study how these glands helps in control and coordination. Look at the diagram or the picture. Pituitary gland, as I said, it is present in the brain, and it is the among all the glands, it is the smallest gland. It is of size of about p. It secretes a hormone called as growth hormone. Apart from that, this pituitary gland controls all other glands which I mentioned. It secretes a specific hormone called as growth hormone. Growth in an organism or in human beings, it is just because of the growth hormone itself. It is responsible for the growth of the body. Of course, this pituitary gland secretes growth hormone in a specific quantity for stimulating growth. In case of children, if this pituitary gland secretes growth hormone in a less quantity. If it secretes in less quantity, what happens? Growth will not occur in that particular child. Growth will not occur. Such a condition we call it as dwarfism. Stunted growth you will find. Such condition we call it as dwarfism. Another situation also occurs. What happens? Pituitary gland, instead of secreting a specific amount of growth hormone, sometimes it will secrete in large quantity. In greater concentration it will secrete. Then it leads to a condition called as gigantism. In such a condition, the person grows abnormally. Abnormal growth you will find. A child aged around 10, 11 or 12 years aged, he reaches a height of about, his growth height will be around 6 or 7 feet, sometimes 8 feet. This is because of over secretion of growth hormone by the pituitary gland. Now come to the next gland, that is thyroid gland. Look at the picture where it is located. It is located in the throat region or in the neck region. It secretes a hormone called thyroxine hormone. This thyroxine hormone secretion, for this the thyroid gland is in need of iodine. That means your diet must contain iodine. How we will get iodine? Usually all the vegetables, they contain iodine. But sometimes if the vegetables do not contain sufficient amount of iodine, you have to supplement your body with iodine. That's why we use iodized salt. The common salt which is used for cooking, it is actually sodium chloride, but it is contains iodine also. That is what we call as a iodized salt, which gives nourishment to our body, or which gives the iodine which is necessary to our body. Of course, iodine is needed in a very small quantity. It is needed in micrograms, but that much of amount of iodine must present in our diet, which stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine hormone. This thyroxine hormone, it regulates carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism, and it also provides best balance for the growth. Hence it is called personality hormone, which means thyroxine hormone not only helps in growth, but also it regulates which part has to grow faster, which part has to grow slower. This is controlled by thyroid gland, hence it is called personality hormone. The physical appearance, the physical personality is because of the thyroxine hormone. Next, as I said, it needs, the thyroid gland needs iodine to produce thyroxine. If your diet is deficient of iodine, then the person suffers from a disease called as goiter. What is the symptom of this disease goiter? Swollen neck. Neck will be swollen. Next is pancreas. Pancreas, as I said, it is located below gastric cavity. It secretes insulin hormone. The insulin hormone is secreted by a particular specific kind of cells in the pancreas called as islet of Langerhans. They produce one hormone, that is insulin. This insulin controls the blood sugar level. When we consume food, food enters into the gastric cavity, it gets digested in the stomach, further digestion occurs in the small intestine where it is converted into the simplest form. For example, carbohydrates are converted into glucose. Now, in the villi of the small intestine, the glucose is absorbed. Then it moves to the blood. Through the blood, it is distributed to all parts of the body, or it is distributed to each and every cell. Cell consumes the glucose present in the blood. The remaining glucose left in the blood is an important factor. So, pancreas secretes insulin. This insulin converts glucose into glycogen. In the life process you have studied. In case of plants, how food is stored? Food is stored in the form of starch. Whereas in animals, the carbohydrates are stored in the form of glycogen. From where this glycogen came? The extra carbohydrate which you have taken gets digested, converted into glucose, entered into the blood. Whatever the glucose consumed by the cells, the left behind glucose is further converted into glycogen by the action of insulin hormone. Thus, insulin hormone plays a very important role in controlling the blood sugar level. Now the question, if the blood sugar level doesn't regulate it, what happens? Definitely adverse effect happens on all other organs. The functioning of different parts of the human body gets disturbed. This happens when insufficient insulin is released by the pancreas into the blood. Usually in a middle-aged persons or above middle-aged persons, not that in all people, that depends on lifestyle, due to which pancreas not able to produce sufficient amount of insulin. Then it cannot control the blood glucose level. Such a condition is called diabetes mellitus. Such patients are advised to take insulin injection. That means a specific quantity of insulin has to be injected into the blood. Yes. Next gland is the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is located above the kidneys. It is usually in pyramid shape or in a triangle shape. It secretes many hormones: adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine and cortisone, among which adrenaline is an important hormone. Why it is important hormone? Because it stimulates the heart to pump more blood. It stimulates the functioning of heart. Not only that, it also increases the breathing rate. Because of all these things, oxygen is pumped to the muscle cells, all to complete body parts. Extra oxygen is pumped, by which extra energy is liberated. This extra energy is utilized by the body to face the emergency situation. Thus, adrenaline hormone prepares the body to face the emergency situation, because it is preparing our body to face adverse situations. Next is the testes. Testes located in the scrotal sacs. This testis is present only in case of males and it secretes testosterone hormone. This testosterone hormone is responsible for the secondary male characters. Next, endocrine glands in females. In females, all other endocrine glands are present as in case of males, but except one, that testes are absent, but in case of females, ovaries are present, a pair of ovary. Now, what is the function of this ovary? Where it is located? It is located in the posterior part of the body and in the pelvic region. It is present only in females and it secretes estrogen hormone. Even this estrogen hormone is also responsible for puberty changes and also female characters or feminine characters in the females. Of course, even this hormones is released when a child attains puberty. It is also same from 12 to 19 years. Likewise, all these endocrines glands helps in coordination. Now come to the feedback mechanism. What is this feedback mechanism? How hormones or glands comes to know that it is the right time to produce hormones? Who will stimulate that? That is stimulated by the conditions in the body. Take for example, all the hormones are secreted in precise quantities. The timing is also very specific. When you consider the blood glucose level, when blood glucose level increases, that message is transferred to the pancreatic cells. Now the pancreatic cells get stimulated. Now they start secreting insulin hormone in a large quantity that depends on the glucose level in the blood. So the stimulation of the pancreatic cells to secrete insulin hormone depends on the glucose level in the blood. It gets the information. This is what we call it as a feedback mechanism. Once the glucose level decreases in the blood, again the pancreatic cells get a information that the glucose level is less. Now the pancreatic cells secrete less and very less amount of insulin. That means secretion of insulin by the pancreatic cells depends on the amount of glucose in the blood. This mechanism we call it as a feedback mechanism. This is how all endocrine glands take part in control and coordination by a feedback mechanism. Thank you, students. Hope all of you followed these points. Again, go through this and prepare well for the examination. All the best in the coming examination. Once again, thank you very much.
ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ
ಖಾಲಿ ಜಾಗ ಭರ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಂದಿಸಿ ಬರೆದು ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಿ
ಚಿತ್ರ ಬರೆದು ಭಾಗವ ಹೆಸರಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೂ ಉತ್ತರಿಸಿ
ಪಾಸು ಫೇಲು ಗೆಲುವು ಸೋಲು ಜೀವನ ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮಿಗಿಲು
ಅಂಕಗಳೆಂದರೆ ಮೇಲಿನ ತೊಗಟೆ ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಅದರ ಒಳಗಿನ ತಿರುಳು ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ ವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ
ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾ